This is just want to make a short video. Obviously, hearing the news of the two coaches that passed away. First, Pat Summitt. I'm not going to pretend that I know that much about women's basketball, but I do know when you're a sports fan, you mention the name Pat Summitt, and you know who you're talking about. Oh, you go, oh, volunteers coach, and she's the winningest coach of winningest record of all time in college history. And all you can say is like hope that she went peacefully, and rest in peace to her. And then suddenly that every Cowboy fan knows that name, and you always close your eyes and you think of Buddy Ryan, and you know how much you hated him back in the day. Probably the greatest defensive coordinator of all time. And coach arguably the greatest defense of all time for that one season in the Chicago Bears. And being a Cowboys fan, I remember this game very much. I remember crying because of the helplessness that you felt. Like 44-0, it was just horrible. And then in our down years, obviously, but getting kicked while we were down, the Bounty Bowl, and then the non-handshake between him and Jimmy Johnson, which enraged every Cowboy fan out there. And remember, if you're a Cowboy fan, you remember that interview after when Jimmy Johnson was snapping, like saying like he took his fat butt and he didn't want to shake my hand, and that's how every Cowboy fan said, oh, yeah, you fat, and that's what impact. That's how much an impact by having our rival teams remember you and remember how much passionately you hated that guy, and for a long time, and to this day. But obviously the talents of a Clyde Simmons, a Jerome Brown, another one who passed on, way too early. He could have been one of the greatest defensive guys, and then obviously one of the greatest defensive linemen of all time, Reggie White, Hall of Fame. Even though as much as talent and how much greatness they had in their own right, it was Rich Kotite that 1991 season when they sacked Aikman 11 times. But you always had that feeling of Buddy Ryan's imprint on that defense still yet, and that's how much of an impact he had. And and you close your eyes and and like how I just said earlier, you mentioned to a Cowboys fan Buddy Ryan, and you just think of all those times that you want to hit him, because you hated him so much. But that's how much respect we have for him. If you remember that way, to me, is that the way that how much respect you got for that person. So for Buddy Ryan, rest in peace also, and rest in peace to Pat Summitt. Aloha.